Will you sing something for me?
Only if you do.
Welcome to Punching In, a series of roundtable discussions by musicians to share ideas about workflow and collaboration. Welcome to Punching In episode 4. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into the world of background singing, what the job entails, and how a group of vocalists work together to form a unified sound to back up the lead vocal. I'm so excited today to feature some vocalists that I've worked a lot with and that I admire and I love, performing with. We have Billye Johnstone, Jayme Palmer Benson, Jordan Michael, Denny Love, and JEJ Millanes. So, Billye, let's start with you. Just give us a little background into what you do.
Well, I am a music director and a choir director and a worship leader at a church in Burbank called Emmanuel that I love. I'm currently singing with an artist in LA named Lisa Donahue, doing backgrounds for her, when we do things. Mm-hmm. Another thing I do right now that I love so much that is also with Jayme is an Andrews Sisters type trio that fronts a big band called Wartime Radio Singers. And I do a lot of vocal coaching for the elementary school and a music school nearby. And those are like current projects. And I'm in development with a corporate events band right now that I'm really excited about.
That's awesome, Billye. I know you and Jayme have worked together a lot in some vocal trios that I want to get more in depth with, just as far as how you guys put that together, if there's actually a music director or if there's a vocal director or if it's just between the three of you. I want to kind of hit on that a little bit when we get a second. Jayme, let's pass it over to you. How about you?
Well, thank you for having me first. This is really cool. I currently am doing a lot of vocal teaching privately and in groups. During the school year, I teach elementary music a few times a week, and I also sub at a few private elementary schools doing the same thing, putting Christmas concerts together and getting small choirs together and all that kind of stuff. But I also do lead and backup studio recordings as well as on stage. I've done a little bit of touring. I toured with Engelbert Humperdinck for a little over a year. And since then, I've continued to play weddings, do the corporate circuit, the Andrews Sisters group Billye talked about, a juggle of all things singing that I love everything pretty equally. It's really fun.
Billye, you also did the Engelbert gig out in Hawaii, right?
That's right. That's where I met Jayme.
Mm-hmm.
And I was invited to sing on the television special, his 50th anniversary show from Hawaii. And that's where Jayme and I met.
Denny, let's pass it to you. How what do you do in the industry?
Hi, guys. I do a myriad of things. I have 2 artist projects. One is my solo project, Denny Love, pop, R&B, soul, which I was really hardcore on when I lived in New York City for many years. And I'm in LA, still continuing with that project. I also have another project that's a duo called Wolf and Love, which is a bit more on the pop spectrum. Right. So working on those 2 projects, doing live shows, writing. I also write for other people. I've had some cuts in the world. I do some sync and licensing, writing, sound-alike songs. So I'm working on that a bit more now. And then of course the occasional corporate wedding gig, once in a while, when, opportunity knocks. But yeah, really currently primarily focused on my 2 artist projects. And then, whenever the awesome sync opportunity can come through to work on that. Hope to get back on stage. I mean, I'm just dying to get in front of an audience.
We're all in that position. So Denny, you were talking about production work. Do you do any top line work?
I do. Yeah. That's a big part of my career. Yeah. Top lining and writing. I've written for a few different pop artists. I've written for an artist named Adam Friedman. We had a song that was featured on an episode of The Bachelor a couple years ago. It was kind of a fun thing. So yeah, a lot of top linings, a lot of sessions, writing sessions. I'm kind of doing like triple duty right now between work and writing and performing. So it's a lot of different things right now.
Yeah, can you just tell everybody what top lining is? I know there's a few people that aren't musicians that are listening.
Yeah, the top line is basically the melody and the lyric over a song. When a pop song is being written, for example, you have a producer who kind of will do most of the instrumentals. Then they'll bring me and other songwriters in to come up with the melody and the main hook line, the main like catchy pieces that, you know, really grab you. So that's kind of what the songwriter does. They do what we call the top line.
JEJ, how about you? Give us a little about yourself.
Hey guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Nick, for having me. It's an honor to be here with all you talented people. I'm kind of a newbie in like the music industry. I just finished studying in USC. Last year I was studying pop music, emphasis in vocal performance. And since then, I joined The Voice last year and finished 13th place. And I've been working with an agency all throughout last year, just traveling throughout the US and performing in different colleges and universities and different events as well. And on top of that, I also am in a couple corporate bands. And right now, I'm just kind of focusing a lot on my artistry, my artist project, and I'm working on an EP, so I've been writing a lot with other people, and also been occasionally teaching voice lessons. And I do some session work as well on the side and do some demos for other people. And some people send me instrumentals and I write songs for them and also record vocals on top of that. So.
Very cool, man. And you and I met on that W gig, and I fell in love with your voice. And give us a little background on yourself, Jordan.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Jordan Michael. I am a 29-year-old Dallas, Texas native. I sing songs for money. And no, I'm an Army vet. I've been in Los Angeles for about 9 years. I've sang supporting vocals for a lot of really cool artists. I have worked personally with, I believe, pretty much all of y'all. So, hey, it's good to see everybody. And yeah, I just love to sing and be late to Zoom meetings. So that's it.
You know, I love working with all of you guys. It's such a pleasure to have all of you on here today. I wanna let you guys lead this discussion a little bit, but I want to talk first, obviously, about working as a unit. You know, how you guys go about with the blend, with you know, making sure all of the vowels are exactly the same. I know, you know, for instance, the and and a, you know, all of those things need to be uniform when you're singing in a group setting.
I would say a lot of my like background work began when I was in college at Syracuse University, and I was in a madrigal choir. Madrigal choirs are like big classical pieces usually, or sometimes 20th century, but a lot of 20th pieces, stuff by like Handel and like the Messiah, like all that kind of stuff. And you know, that is really like, that was like my boot camp for sight reading, first of all, but also blend. And it was a cappella. So we didn't have, it's also a cappella. So it's like sort of like fancy, like, you know, elitist a cappella, basically, for like old, you know, rich music donors. But it was a really fun experience. It was pretty exciting. But the biggest thing I learned was, you know, we had to sound very uniform, very like, again, matching tones. Like I was always put really, I'm a tenor one. Sometimes I would sing alto. But I was always put like next to the altos to help the altos blend the female like lows with some of the super high male sounds, which was really cool experience. It really helped train me for like doing like live shows and stuff. And again, yeah, the matching of the tones and matching of the pitches. If
somebody has a huskier voice, how do you thin that out with a thinner alto sound? Alto land is low for a female, but also high for a male. How do you blend those two together?
Well, a big part of it is, you know, vowel matching for sure. And I mean, for me, I just try to almost mimic the tone of whoever I'm trying to blend with. Like if I was going to imitate how you sing, Denny, You know, like I would try to do a Denny impersonation, and then I would put that in my own voice, but I would kind of feel like where you're placing it to try to match your tone. But I mean, there's really something to be said. It's all about listening. I'm sure we would all agree. I mean, the main point in blending is to listen. And I also like to try to sing within the tone of whoever I'm matching, not try to like equal their tone.
Right.
But try to like picture in my mind, if it's a circle, I'm singing within the border of that circle to sing into their leading tone.
It's like, it's a balancing act of like your own tone versus their tone. And I've definitely found myself in that position. Like, I mean, you sort of like, as a singer, we all have really great ears. Immediately, like when I meet someone new, like if I'm showing up for a corporate gig, for example, and I've like, you know, we've worked on our own, for example, in terms of rehearsing, we really haven't had a chance to really even sing together. That's like a really big moment to just like immediately start listening and just like try to match. And like eventually, like probably after the first couple of songs, if you've got like a, you know, 4 hours worth of music, probably within the first couple of songs, you've kind of pretty much mastered like each other's like sounds so that you know where you're going to be at for like the remainder of your set.
And I think intonation is a huge part of that as well, is it not? I mean, singing in the center of the pitch versus singing a few cents sharp or a few cents flat. I mean, if you're not matching on the harmony, you're going to have all kinds of overtones out of whack.
The vibrato really, really matters. Some people, when they use their vibrato, they go sharp, and some people go flat, or some people just, they go a little flat, and the minute the vibrato kicks in, they're just right on pitch.
Yeah.
So, you know, with the varying speeds of different singers' natural vibrato, it's kind of varying. And so then you're not only figuring out what tone you're singing in, if you're bright, if you're airy, if you're, you know, trying to be a little thicker with your sound, but you're matching your vowels, and then you're matching, okay, what do we each have to do to just find that common ground to all be in tune? All have, I mean, are we straight toning and then adding vibrato? Are we all going to straight tone and one person adds vibrato? What does that look like? And I think that it just varies depending on the group of singers you're with, because you're thrown into situations with singers you've, like you were saying, Denny, that you never worked with before, and just trying to figure out like, okay, where's the common ground, and you know, how to make the best situation possible out of different voices coming together.
When I was working with my a cappella group, I was their music director. We did a lot of like warm-ups before we started rehearsing, and a lot of the warm-ups were just kind of like unison warm-ups where we would sing oohs or ahs or whatever, and we just stay in that same note until we literally feel like we form a circle, and we literally feel kind of like the frequency and vibration that we're all like kind of sitting on in the same placement. And I think that's like really important to like have that kind of warm-up before we practice, because it just like kind of sets us in a zone where like, okay, so this is like where this is what we're doing, and this is kind of like the placement of the tone that we're doing. How
do you guys handle, for instance, a thicker vibrato or a quick vibrato versus a more lengthy one?
I think in background singing or ensemble singing, using little vibrato is the first way to go, little or none.
Right.
You know, as the background singers, as an ensemble, you want to be able to have the purest note possible, to be able to lock, to be able to even ring the chord, you know, like you were talking about in your a cappella group, JEJ, and, you know, avoiding vibrato at all costs. I mean, I think if the lead has the vibrato, we would want to lay a straight foundation for them to be able to sing over. And it would be a lot harder if somebody, you know, in the background stack is also on the melody against the vibrato. In that case, probably the person on the melody really just needs to back off and just kind of be like a pad behind, rather than trying to fight the straight tone against the vibrato.
You really got to tone down your vibrato. I mean, it's really more about hitting the notes. Right. It's more about hitting the notes than it is about having a vibrato, or even, it's not that you like, you have to focus on hitting the notes. And again, like, you know, it's really straight tone note hitting. It's really about the lead and how, like, that's such a big part of being a background singer and a background instrumentalist even. It's like you really have to follow the singer, follow the lead, really. You know, where's the singer going to go? You know, it's where's the lead singer going to go? You got to kind of follow what's happening. And it's very similar to being a background singer. We got to scale back our vibrato. We got to scale back some of our like special tones, special tricks, and kind of just focus on the notes, focus on blend.
There are like intentional vibrato moments where someone wants the background vocals to sound kind of more brassy. So it's like kind of have to kind of exaggerate your vibrato a little bit. Everyone has to kind of sit in a different placement where it's a little bit more brighter and it sounds really nice. But for the most part, I definitely agree. Basically 90% of the time, like it's definitely important to kind of listen to who you're singing with and not go overboard with your vibrato. And a song with nice, cool harmonies starting out really straight and then kind of end a little bit with vibrato in the tail ends. Like I feel like that sounds really like adds a more soulful taste to it. But for the most part, definitely not having vibrato for like 90% of the parts you're singing. Crucial.
I add a lot of this kind of stuff in my vocal arrangements. Long scoops or slides or portamento sweeps, even growls and stuff like that. How do you guys go about blending, like I call them vocal effects? How would you guys go about doing that?
For my acapella group, that we like did a competition the year that I music directed, and one of our pieces we kind of had to emulate this like really electronic kind of muffled sound in the beginning. And what we did was we did like a bunch of warm-ups where we just kind of like did this together. Like we kind of like muffled our words and kind of slowly transitioned from that muffled covered sound to kind of a clear, really brassy but no vibrato, kind of bright sound. And we just kind of did that a lot. And for like we just like ran that part a lot, kind of just like practicing that part over and over again until you guys find like the right placement, I guess.
That also really ties into knowing the material, right? Like to Judge's point about like sometimes you just want to like you need to be brassy, maybe you need to be like slightly more like, you know, expressive. You know, it also really depends on the material. Like I was in a pop vocal a cappella group in college as well, and we did a lot of Radiohead songs, which is like crazy. And it was like so much nuance with some of the parts that we, you know, had to do. It was a lot of nuance, a lot of like, you know, tone. It was like acting, voice. It was like almost like voice acting in a lot of ways. But I think it really matters depending on the songs that you're singing, depending on the vibe of the artist that you're doing BGVs for, you know, and how you want to match, you know, the sound. And, you know, I have to say, like, I think a lot of it is on the spot.
I want to go into like standout vocals, right? So if it's lead vocal and it's basically just you, no other background vocals, how do you guys handle, for instance, doing the harmonies against a lead or having to say duet with a lead in their show or in their concert?
For me, honestly, it's just about tone matching. Really understanding the material so that you can know how to adapt to the song. You do a lot more listening than anything, and not necessarily to yourself, but more so to the sounds around you, so that you can just find that succinct like oneness of the sound. It's real one band, one sound about it, if I can quote Drumline. Sorry. But that's really how I approach it. I mean, because every voice is different. So every approach is really different. There's no real set, like you just kind of have to go in with your ears on and just.
Right. But would you guys say you're pulling back a little bit more in that situation and not trying to pull focus?
I guess it really just depends on the artist. Some singers have a softer sound that requires a little bit more support. Some people are loud, so you can kind of hang back. That's it. For me personally, there's never really been a right way to approach it. I know specifically with like working with Aubrey, who can kind of do everything. Those are like the funner but also the more challenging things, because it's like, oh, we're going everywhere today. Great.
Yeah.
There is no one size fits all approach to it. You just kind of have to have your ears on and just be ready to do the thing.
Another thing I like to do, if you have the luxury of being able to see them, you know, see their face, it's great if you can watch them.
Totally.
And, you know, watch the shape of their mouth, watch where they're starting and ending. And, you know, if there hasn't been a lot of rehearsal, you are singing by watching and listening and, you know, matching attacks and cutoffs and breaths to really have a unified duet.
So the next topic I wanted to get on is when to harmonize and when to pad. I mean, what are those are basically the options, right? Or call and response. When is it appropriate to harmonize and when is it appropriate to pad?
I go through this all the time when I'm writing songs, when I'm recording and deciding when it feels necessary to have a harmony and when it feels necessary to have melody. I love a good harmony. I'm a singer. I like to be crazy. I like to have fun. But like, I have an issue with over harmonizing. You know, first of all, I think there's a time when sometimes we get a little aggressive and we don't need to be harmonizing on like every little solitary thing. Again, it's about the show, right? So if you are doing a corporate gig, for example, and the audience wants to hear the real authenticity of the song, you know, you don't want to take too much away from that, you know, in terms of the material itself. You don't want to be taking too much away from it, but you do sometimes want to have fun, want to be a little innovative. There's a lot of different opportunities to, you know, be fun and have a good time. But like, if it's a really like strict, you know, good pop song, clear, concise, and you know that people want to hear certain, you know, things and they want to sing along with you, you don't want to alienate them too much. So that's kind of a thing. But then like, as you get more comfortable with each other, for example, I think it's really like kind of a comfortability thing, where you're singing with somebody and you know that the two of you, the three of you, the four of you can like really kind of like vibe off each other and really kind of go to different places with it, and it can be entertaining,
right?
Then go for it. Otherwise, you kind of, you know, I do think like there are lots of times when you need to do a pad. There's lots of times, you know, when it's appropriate to let the lead singer kind of just give us especially like if it's a slow song, for example, and the lead singer is just like living, you know, let them be, you know?
Like Denny, I'm super obsessed with backing vocals when I'm recording my own song. Like I just add too many stacks sometimes. But I feel like in a live situation, it depends if there are 3 BGVs in you. To me, in a pop music style, I like it better personally if I add just like one other harmony, like harmonizing with me, like singing word for word. I like it when it's like more just like little spurs of that, like throughout the song, like not overdoing it and just kind of doing that on like lines that you want people to hear the most to kind of make it pop out more. And I think the oohs and ahs and more of like just the background vocal, like kind of synthy stuff like that, I like doing that more compared to harmonizing word for word, because I think like a pop song, I feel like, especially for a live performance where you only have maybe like 4 instrumentalists and 3 background singers, I kind of like adding more layers of kind of vocals that act more like synths.
I generally save harmonization for the important words or the important phrases in the song. But also, you know, when I arrange for vocal groups, those synthy vowel-esque pads are really, I feel, the driving force as opposed to a guitarist in those scenarios.
I'm a huge fan of Brandy, and she has a lot of padded backgroundy accents that, you know, help support the melody and support the main message of the song. Yeah, sometimes you can go a little slap happy and have 42 tracks, pan them to the left and the right, crank up the auto-tune and the reverb. It's a great time, but it can get a little swimmy. So yeah, it really just depends on like the song. What is the message? Sometimes having 42 harmonies is a great time to really set the atmosphere of what it is that you're doing. I mean,
yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody starts like boom.
Yeah.
So you can't.
That's a good example.
So I'm not going to take away from the effect of, hey, I'm going to chord you into oblivion all on syllables. You know, you can do that. It really just depends on like what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to vibe somebody down?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to amp somebody up? And melody and, you know, prime unison is really good to like drive home a message and be like, this is the meaning of the song. And then once you've got it, you can spill off into a bunch of different pretty colors and do some weird stuff.
For the most part, I like a really open tone and to elongate all words as much as possible.
Sure.
You know, and to be just for I think that gives you the best tone, the best projection.
Sure.
And to do anything that's closing off can take away from that unless it's really specifically for an effect.
Right.
And also, you know, teaching any ensemble or a choir to always hold on to the first syllable of a vowel as long as humanly possible, and to only even turn the vowel at the release, you know. So I only use those just here and there.
I think Billye can probably relate to the fact that we're not always given the opportunity to be working with or directing singers that are trained. So a lot of times we're kind of teaching from the ground up of like, a lot of times vowels need to be corrected so that they can project to the ear correctly. So a lot of times when I do warm-ups with singers, I try to just get them to do their O's more open and the Oo's and try to get the sound to come out instead of get stuck back, and, you know, all the placement stuff that goes along with that. But it's kind of fun to play around with, like, I don't know, like E, instead of singing E like this, like say E, 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 like do, you know, try to figure out like what's the unified sound that will still sound like the vowel you're trying to get across without like compromising the sound of it.
Would you guys not both agree that plosives and hard consonants on the top of words will also attack the words a little bit more and attack the beginning of the note a little bit more?
Just as long as they all happen together.
That's a good point. I mean, if a lot of people are doing that all at once, it could be chaos.
Right.
So sometimes, you know, one or two people, depending on the size of the group, are going to be assigned that responsibility, whereas everybody else will kind of slough it a little bit.
When I was in TMEA, All-State Choir in high school, that was a really big thing because everybody loved to put a K and a P and an S on something. So they really did specify, like, y'all ended with an open vowel, and then you all second chairs, y'all do the K. And it would get that specific, especially in Texas, because everybody's got diphthongs and everybody talk like this, and we all twang it up. So yeah, open, tall vowels, elongation, saying E instead of E. Very Eric Whitacre. We're just gonna spread our just doing the thing from Beetlejuice where you just stretch it out and keep it long and tall the entire time.